Obviously, to be able to help 42 families, you've obviously had to do something in the home or structured it in the home to really set yourself up for success. And in due fact, I guarantee it's because you have a high level of appointments. I mean, that always is the cure to high activity. But 42 families is still a lot of families in your second month. So if you can kind of just role play with us when you roll up to the house and kind of how that goes, so everybody on this call can understand, I imagine, how simple you actually keep it.
Right. So immediately I just build a connection with the client. I know a lot of people say, like, don't talk too much, get to the point, blah, blah, blah. But I think just going in the home, building a connection, knowing that they can trust me is helped me a lot. A lot of people deal with the whole, like, I'm not giving you my social, that thing. I really don't ever deal with that because they trust me. And I feel like I build that from the start. So when, I open the door, I'm like, hey, this is Summer you spoke with yesterday. They're usually, come on in. So then I just sit down and like, okay, so my first question is, do you currently have any life insurance at all in place? And, they're usually like, no. Or if they say yes, I'm like, okay, can we see what you currently have? Let me see if I can put you in a better position. Just genuinely showing that I care. And if they say no, I'm like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and I'm just going to find you something that is going to work for you specifically, for your family to get in place. So I usually give them an example too. So I'm like, if they're obviously like 60, 70, they can't do term. So I'm like, okay, so what I'm going to show you is some different whole life policies. I'm going to ask you a few questions and then we're going to go from there and I'm going to give you the best option that will fit you specifically. So for example, here, if a whole life policy was 20,000 coverage, if you were to pass away tomorrow, that 20K coverage would pay out to your beneficiary in whole. What it's going to do is it's never going to go up in price. So what I recommend is you get it as soon as you can, as healthy as you can, because that is going to result in the price of things. And obviously, so you will have that coverage for your family. If you were to get in a car wreck, fall off your roof, any accident at all, what that's going to do is it's going to have the double already on it. So what that will do is, say you have a $20,000 policy, get in a car wreck, it'll pay out $40,000 to your beneficiary. Makes sense? That's another thing I always say to them. Like, I just want to make sure they're constantly following me. Like, does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So then, it's never going to go up in price. It's going to build cash value in there over time. So what that looks like is, in the next 10 years or so, that $20,000 policy will be worth a little bit more than that. Just obviously putting everything on the line just to show them, explain it out to them so they understand it. And then I get on my iPad, obviously quote them for their health, ask them their age or health, if they smoke, all that good stuff. And then from there, I just quote them out, put it in front of them. And I'm just like, do any of these work specifically for you? Also, I think what helps me too is I ask them what is their monthly income. If they're on disability, usually it's $800, $1,000 a month. So then I can't really give them a $200 policy a month. So that is, with those internet leads, I have had mostly, smaller policies. I wouldn't say small. I'm kind of getting better at writing bigger ones, but you know what I mean? So I think just showing them in the in-home what they can afford to. I went to a lady recently and she said she had a policy with another insurance agent and she only showed her like the highest value. And she was like, I can't afford this. But she told her she could, but she never laid out those 3 options for her to even see that there were other ones. So, I'm not going to do that. I'm always going to do what's best for the client, just so I don't end up with those cancellations after cancellation. So yeah, I think that's overall what helps me in the in-home. And then I'll just put it in front of them. They'll pick it. We'll go over the application with them. And I usually don't have any issues through the application because they already built that trust with them and they already know exactly what I'm giving them.
So how, when you show the numbers and they're like, I don't know if any of these work for me, how do you overcome that and make it make sense for someone who looks at your options and they're like, I just don't know if any of these are going to make sense?
Right. So I'll be like, okay, so what doesn't look good to you? Is it too high? Are you confused about something? Just digging in to see exactly what I can do to help. And usually it's too expensive. I can't afford it. So then I'm like, okay, let's see what you can afford and what you can have in place. And what we can do is we can get something set up right now. My job just to see if I can get you approved. That's the only reason I'm here. So what we have to do is go through this application. Obviously, I do want something in place that you can afford. So what we'll do is get something you can afford today. And then if you can maybe afford a little bit more coverage in the, future, we can go up from there. And then I'll just, quote them out again, $5,000 less than the lowest one. Say I did 30, 25, 20, I'll put them at 15 and be like, oh, does this work?
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. But what I think a lot of agents get hung up on is they show options and then they got their fingers crossed and hope that they say yes to one of them. But you're not. Are you ever worried or nervous about them saying none of these options work because you're confident in your ability to make it make sense? Or like, how does that work for you? Because I'm assuming out of your 42 families protected that there's a couple instances where they were like, I don't know if any of these make sense, or no, I'm not going to move forward. Like, I guess my question is, are you ever worried about that? Or are you confident enough in yourself that you'll still be able to figure out something that makes sense for them?
I mean, both. You still always have those clients who are like, I can't do it. I can't even afford my, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even afford to put food on the table, much less pay for this. Like, I'm in debt, yada, yada, explain their whole life story to me. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Obviously, I do try to tell them as much as I can that this is important, but you can only do so much. So usually all I can say is I walk out of the house, and I've gotten better at this over time, obviously being in front of as many people as I have, but just knowing that I walked out knowing I did as much as I possibly could. I hate walking out of a house being like, dang, I should have said this. You know what I mean? So just knowing, I rather put the client in the best position possible than get a chargeback. But at the same time, if they can't afford anything, if they have no money, I mean, I really can't do anything about it,
Yeah, of course. You're leaving it all on the table. Like, you're going to at least do your best to try to fight for that family and to protect them to the best of your ability.